What's going on, everybody? This is John Jake Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with the year 3 off-season recap of the Coach Jeff Grossman Dynasty here on NCAA 14, featuring that college football revamp, of course. And we got a good episode in store for you guys today. Going to be taking a look at the custom prospects, scattered around the NCAA. Check in and see how they're doing, and then of course have our own off season, going through the whole off season, see if we do end up getting our very first head coaching opportunity. So it's going to be a really good one. You're going to want to tune in for the full thing. Make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button if you have to be brand new. Hit my comments up too, man. I love reading your comments. But you guys are probably wondering why I'm checking in on a random bowl game between Washington State and Northern Illinois in the AVOCare Independence Bowl. Well, as you can see on screen, one of your custom recruits, Josh Johnson, you guys remember him, he actually signed with the Washington State Cougars back in season number 1, and he is now the starting running back for this Cougars offense, an offense that, helped them go 7-5 in the Pac-12, middle of the pack in the Pac-12 North Division. And by the way, guys, if you want more information about how to get your own custom recruits, your own custom prospects in this series, you're going to want to watch all the way to the end of this video. I will talk about it later, but for that being said, let's go ahead and see if John Johnson can go ahead and get into the end zone here. We're 3/4 of the way in. We haven't seen him get into the end zone yet, but his team is winning. And usually when teams are winning at this point of the game, maybe that's when we'll start seeing that run game happen just a little bit more often. Seeing as Washington State is a run and shoot team, so a team that is certainly not going to run the football very often, but despite that, John Johnson still is in a position to potentially go ahead and reach 1,000 yards rushing on the season. That would be pretty good for the fact that he is a first-year starter. And there it is, a touchdown for John Johnson, baby. Able to walk right in there, had a hole that was wide but naked open. And this Washington State squad is dominating the Northern Illinois Huskies, who did end up winning the MAC Conference here in season number 3. So that's where they ended up going this bowl season, as we're getting close to the end of this game. Looking to see maybe if John Johnson can get into the end zone one last time, as he is approaching 100 yards rushing. We'll see if he can get into the end zone on this play here, but John Johnson is going to be just short. Washington State will not choose to run another play, but that being said, Washington State, they, with a little bit of help from John Johnson, of course, helps them win the AutoCare Independence Bowl. They end up winning 38-14, so a really good performance, as John Johnson almost had 100 yards rushing on the day, 21 carries, 90 yards, and a touchdown to go with it as well. So when they did run, it was mostly John Johnson, but he also got involved in the backfield as well. 5 catches for 23 yards to go with it. So with that performance in the bowl game against the Northern Illinois Huskies, a big win for Washington State, by the way, John Johnson in his first year starting, even though he's in a pass-happy offense, does get close to 1,000 yards on the ground. He ends up with 927 yards rushing, 13 touchdowns to go with it. Only fumbled the football twice, despite the fact that he does have a pretty low carrying rating. And then as for his receiving, he didn't catch the ball much out of the backfield. 9 catches, 76 yards, and a touchdown to go with it as well. Ironically, the only drop that he had was in that bowl game as well. Speaking of custom prospects making their mark, let's go ahead and check out some of the other custom prospects that you guys have submitted and are starting to see the field. First, we got Gladiator Aruba. He did sign with Wisconsin back in season number 1. And second year on the field, he played as that third receiver in a run-heavy offense, but still found the end zone more times than he did last season. 17 catches, 240 yards, and 4 touchdowns to go with it as well, making his difference felt on the field. Also did carry the football one time, and that one time did go for a grand total of 2 yards. Next up, we got Donnie Watson, who came in as a 5-star prospect in the Season 2 recruiting class. Now, he is a true freshman this year, but despite the fact that he is extremely buried on this depth chart, he did end up getting on the field somehow. He only had 1 carry for 2 yards, but that being said, he does have a lot of potential. Don't be shocked if he makes it into the NFL as at least a day 2 pick. Bear Footlock was also a prospect that did end up signing this past season from Plattsburgh, New York, but running back for NC State did see a little bit more run on the field than what, say, Donnie Watson did. Ended up with 15 carries, 66 yards, and a touchdown in his freshman campaign. Did not get any catches out of the backfield, though. As for Isaiah King, he is going to set himself up nicely to be a entrenched starter next season, but in the meantime, he's still making his impact felt, even though he's the number 4 wide receiver this season. 31 catches, 312 yards, and 5 touchdowns, all improving his categories from his true freshman campaign. Plus, he's up to a 79 overall, too. Chris Hill did see a little bit of action on the field as well. In his first season on the field, he is still the third string guy. He should move up to the backup position next season, but in the meantime, he saw a little bit of time on the field and was okay. 4 tackles, 2 TFLs, did have an assisted tackle as well, and tack on a sack as well on top of it. Hopefully those stats improve, since he should be seeing more playing time next season. Speaking of guys that could potentially see the field next year, Andre Scheigel, a true sophomore from Montreal, Canada, he ended up seeing the field a little bit this year as backup quarterback for the Cincinnati Bearcats, but it was rough going for him this year. 31 for 76 when he was in, 426 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, but 5 interceptions. His completion percentage was also barely over 40% to go with it, so definitely some things to work on, but he did find the end zone on the ground. He did have 23 carries for 28 yards, and he will be in, I would imagine, a quarterback battle against fellow sophomore Nick Williams this offseason. We'll see what ends up happening. Nick Williams has the edge. He is a star player, but we'll see if that remains, or will Andre Scheigel be able to take the job away. And last but not least, in terms of custom recruit updates, we got Jonathan Falzon, who is a freshman redshirt from Syracuse, New York. First season on the field for the Buffalo Bulls. He played very sparingly, ended up with 3 tackles, 1 TFL, 3 assisted tackles as well. No sacks, interceptions, forced fumbles, anything like that. He should be the starter in a couple of seasons. Just has to wait basically until Bryce Johnson-Maith graduates. So after next season, Jonathan Falzon should be the starting defensive lineman for the Buffalo Bulls. But as for your Maryland Terps, though, we honestly did have a pretty good season, all things considered, man. We end up finishing 10-3, and this was the first time legitimately since, I believe, 2002 that we end up with a 10-win season. Yeah, actually 2003 when they won the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl, and this was back when they were also in the ACC. So the best season that Maryland has had in a long time. And also our offense looked really good. Almost averaged 34 points a game. Borderline top 20 in the NCAA. 4th in the Big Ten. So it'll be interesting to see if we can get some head coaching offers from, say, a group of 5 school, for example. Simply because we do have that opportunity. And I think we have what it takes, to get up to that level. But that being said, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and see how our schedule went down. It was kind of a series of streaks for us over the course of this season. We did start off, pretty easy. Played against, actually, Bowling Green was really solid, 8-5, but Illinois won 1 game the entire season. Then we went and played West Virginia. They we only beat them by a field goal. They finished 3-9. But our big win in non-conference play came against Florida State. They finished 9-4, 7-2 record, finished number 19 in the country, and we went on the road and win convincingly. We actually did start the year with a 6-game winning streak before starting our gauntlet against teams like Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State as well, and we lost to all 3 of those teams. So we went 6-3, but then we have our last 3 games against Indiana, against Rutgers, against Michigan State, who did finish in the top 25 as well, and we ended up, and then of course, the Outback Bowl victory that we had against Arkansas. So we ended up on a 4-game winning streak to end the season and finish the year 10-3. Checking out real quick to see if we had any All-Americans, and it looks like we did on the defensive side of the ball. Hippolyte II and Rex Fleming do receive first-team honors, and then we'll see if we have any offensive players on the offensive side of the ball. We don't, but we do have Bro Braid and Terrence Lewis do receive second-team honors. Over on the Big Ten, do we have any offensive players? I'm actually surprised Rakeem Jarrett isn't in there. He's a second-team guy, but he put up some massive stats. So 82 catches, almost 1,200 yards of receiving, and also tack on 10 touchdowns to go with it as well. I'm actually surprised he did not end up, at least first-team Big Ten or All-American, but that's a little bit of slander against Maryland. Still trying to change perception of the Maryland football program. But that being said, we had a really good season. And, even though we may not get recognized with the accolades, this offense was really good executing out of that triple option set. As for the stats for our guys over the course of this season, let's go ahead and start out with the passing. Now, Tulia Tagovailoa, he was a gunslinger for us for the most part, and we had a little bit of a regression with him. Granted, he didn't throw as many times as he did last year, but his completion percentage is up, and he did also get his interceptions down a little bit. So, but it's still pretty close to 1-1. So I don't know what that will mean in terms of his NFL prospects, but I mean, he did lead us to a 10-3 record, and he did have far more rushing yards on the ground this season. Roughly same amount of carries. Also ended up with 6 rushing TDs. As for our backup quarterback, David Fowles, he should be taking over after this season. He will be the new starting quarterback for the Maryland Terrapins. He was solid when he was in the game. He was asked a little bit more often than last year, but 66 for 105, 982 yards passing. Did end up with 7 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Most of them, I believe, came in one game when Tulia was out early and Faust was just down horrendous. But, he's a solid quarterback. Can't really complain about him too much. Did also have 4 touchdowns on the ground to go with that as well. And Caleb Clark even threw a pass, threw a surprise pass. 1 for 1, 8 yards. Led to a touchdown, so that was really cool. As for our running game, what's really surprising is we did not have anyone close to 1,000 yards, but Panay Boone did start out as our starting running back, and then we kind of made a change after the Michigan game. So in the last 5 games, Isaiah Jacobs took over, so their stats were roughly the same with the exception of touchdowns. Panay Boone did have about 650 yards on the ground, 12 touchdowns to go with it. And then Isaiah Jacobs, 614 yards, less carries though, so he had a higher yards per carry average, had 5 touchdowns to go with it. Now, this did also open up time for Caleb Clark because Boone did move to the fullback. So that pushed out Eric Webb, who is not bad, don't get me wrong. He actually had a decent little year as well, but he's just not as quick. And Panay Boone, he's a power rusher. And I just felt like, give a little bit more athleticism on the field, especially once y'all pointed that out in the comments. So I appreciate that. 34 carries, 155 yards, 2 TDs. That's not bad. But Caleb Clark was the biggest beneficiary of the change, I think. He was able to get on the field because he was the 3rd string running back on the depth chart. But because Boone moved to fullback, someone had to step in as the new de facto backup. And that was Caleb Clark, 50 carries, almost 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, all of those in the last 5 to 6 games of the season. And then to wrap things up, we got to check out these receivers real quick. And listen, Rakeem Jarrett, we talked about him, second team Big Ten. I would be shocked if he is not in the conversation, to say the least, to go ahead and move to the NFL. I think he tried to declare last year. I think he should be like a first or second round pick in my opinion, but that's just me. But the rest of the receivers, man, we're looking pretty solid as a unit. I mean, Dejuan McDougal, for example, he's a junior, 47 catches, 682, 6 TDs to go with it, second in the team in catches and touchdowns. Fleming Jr. also was looking pretty nice. He's a junior, 36 catches, 763 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Isaiah Jacobs and Panay Boone did go at, they contributed heavy to the passing game as well. And then Corey Dykes, he was our new starting tight end. He did pretty good in the receiving department, 23 catches, 276 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And then we also got some contributions from a bunch of other players. So a lot of different people did touch the ball. Nick DeGennaro, he actually only had 1 catch, but that 1 catch was really important at the time. That almost sealed the deal against Ohio State if it wasn't for Quinn Ewers moving downfield and scoring on us on the very last second. So because of how well we did, the best season since 2003, we actually are going to go ahead and get a contract extension from Maryland. But what I really want to do is I want to explore other options in the coaching carousel. I want to see what kind of head coaching opportunities are out there for us, see if we can get a head coaching gig. So that being said, I'm going to cut to when we're starting to get offers, and we'll see what we end up getting. All right, guys, so we got through some of the coaching carousel process, and Southern Florida actually wants to go ahead and offer us a contract in order to be their head coach of the Southern Florida Bulls, and we are absolutely going to accept that deal. And Southern Florida, man, last couple of years, they've been doing pretty well, 7-6 and 8-5. They don't have a high program tradition, but maybe we can, be that changing culture. And honestly, not a bad first head coaching gig, to be honest with you. It could be a lot worse, going to a solid conference as well. I can't wait to see, what's to come with the, Southern Florida Bulls, man. I'm excited about the opportunity. So since I am going to be the head coach now in this dynasty, one thing that I am going to do outright is what I want to try to do is I want to take on the playbooks of my coordinators. So when I was the offensive coordinator for Air Force in Maryland as well, what I wanted to go ahead and do, I had, control of my playbook, for offense, but didn't do recruiting. Now, I'm going to handle the recruiting, so you're going to see more recruiting updates, over the course of the season. Plus, I'll be taking on the playbooks of my coordinators. So my defensive coordinator, I'm going to take on their defensive playbook, and then my offensive coordinator, Brian Lindgreen, I'm going to go ahead and take his offensive playbook as well. So, good that way to make things a little bit different, so that I'm not running the same playbook, so long as my coordinators choose not to stick around because they might want head coaching opportunities or coordinator opportunities at a Power 5 school. So we move over to Southern Florida, to check out and see what are we dealing with in terms of who's leaving and who's staying. And it looks like we got 2 guys that want to leave. Looks like both, true freshmen, both want playing time. We'll see if we can convince them to stay, but it looks like Tyler Mayers is going to transfer to Florida Atlantic. And then Jeff Forden, he actually wants to go to Florida State, so a Power 5 school, and he's going to also leave as well. So definitely a pretty rough thing for us to see. We'll see if Maryland, as a result of me leaving, is there going to be anyone that is possibly going to go ahead and transfer to Southern Florida. And we don't. Not only that, but it looks like only Dejuan McDougal is declaring. Looks like Rakeem Jarrett is going to actually stay in school, so that's definitely really surprising. Maryland's going to only have 1 pro, I guess, this season if he does choose not to go back to school. So we didn't have any draft picks, and we also did not have anyone come in through the transfer portals. So here we go, in the process of recruiting these high school athletes, we only have 5 scholarships left to work with. Now, as of right now, our recruiting class is mostly complete, but we did put together a pretty good class so far here in Southern Florida. Looks like they're the 25th ranked recruiting class as of right now, and they got some solid players, man, on this recruiting class. Rodriguez, McDonald, 3 4-star players, and then also got to custom recruit Mitch Steele at quarterback as well. So I'm really excited with, this recruiting class as a whole. Let's see what we can do to go ahead and finish it out. Alright, so I took a quick look at our recruiting board real quick. I got it down to 24 players. But what I really want to do is I just want to go ahead and go after 2 separate guys. I want to go after Trey Myers. He's a 3-star wide receiver from Winter Haven, Florida. And right now we're in a battle between us and Alabama. I'm actually surprised that Alabama is going after somebody like Trey Myers, unless he is, someone that turns to be a gem or something. But I didn't use anything on scouting. I want to maximize, just getting players on our team, get as many guys as possible. But then the other guy I want to go after is Johnny Weber, 3-star corner from Stuart, Florida. Seems to be a really good fit for us. We can give him some early playing time, and he wants to stay close to home, but it's going to be a tough battle for him as well. Troy and FIU is also going after this kid, so those are the 2 guys I want to go after. I'm not really worried about either Matt Murray or Justin Watts. Just looking at their overalls just doesn't seem very good. We want to have a little bit better players than that at Southern Florida. If they do decide to come, cool. But if they end up signing elsewhere, then honestly, I'm really not too terribly worried about it. So that's what I'm going to be rolling with. And only thing left to do now is go ahead and get to signing day and see what ends up happening for our guys. Alright, so it does look like we do end up getting both of the players that we were really going after in Johnny Weber and Trey Myers. Matt Murray, he's going to go ahead. He's going to Louisville. And then I believe Jason Harris, he was the other person that was kind of on our recruiting board. He ends up committing to Duke. So we only end up signing 2 players, but they're both 3-star guys. They're both quality players at the end of the day. Now, we did have a top 25 class since we didn't do much in signing day. Let's see where our recruiting class stands now. And honestly, still pretty good, all things considered. Still the 34th ranked recruiting class. For a group of 5 school, that's really good. I mean, we got some 4-star players. We got a custom recruit at quarterback as well. So we can see some Mitch Steeles down the line, So I'm really excited about that kind of opportunity. So yeah, man, I'm really happy with, how this recruiting class turned out. Let's go ahead and see if any of your custom prospects who haven't signed yet, we'll see if they have signed on the dotted line as well, even though it may not be for our school. So for starters, Jacob Miller actually does end up walking on at Texas A&M. Nobody really went after him, and he really wanted to go to an Arkansas school, but it just didn't happen. So he's going to walk on at Texas A&M. We might bump down his stats, or I don't know what we're going to do, considering he's a walk-on. But, Jacob Miller, he's going to be playing for Texas A&M over on that cornerback position. As for Fatu Tolufe, we do also see him actually, he did receive a scholarship offer for Hawaii at the last minute. So staying in the state of Hawaii, is going to be playing for the Rainbow Warriors moving forward. Thought we might see him go to Utah State. Thought he had a slight edge, but I guess that did not materialize. So Fatu Tolufe, he's going to be playing for Hawaii over in the Mountain West. And then to wrap things up, for your custom recruits update, here on signing day, Mikel Jackson, the brother of Wardell Jackson, he's going to be playing over in Nebraska. He did not receive that scholarship to Nebraska, but he had a choice between Texas State and Texas Tech, and he's going to be rocking with the Texas State Bobcats. He really wanted to try to get as much playing time as possible. Felt like he had the best chance for that very opportunity over in the Sun Belt Conference for Texas State. All right, man, so we are here at position changes now. We'll go ahead and take a look and see what we got going on with our athletes first and foremost. And starting off, we got Roosevelt Mcdonald and seeing where he could be. And it looks like he's a safety. Let's see where it would be a better fit. Looks like we got plenty of safeties over. We got 4 free safeties. Although, looks like we actually, well, I feel like he wouldn't start necessarily, but I think what I want to do with Roosevelt Mcdonald, I want to put him at that strong safety position. He'll be more likely to contribute right away. He'll be at least close to that third string position with like Eric Houston and Christopher Townsell as well. So we'll see how that goes. And then the other athlete that we have is Sheldon Rodriguez. Now, it looks like he might be more of an offensive guy, and it looks like he might be best fitted, for halfbacks. So that's what we're going to do. He bumps himself back up to a 68. Not as high as I want him to be. He'll probably be like our third string running back. Actually, fourth string running back. Kenneth Simmons should develop a little bit. He'll work behind him, Brian Battle, and then Ben Archie probably will end up getting the red shirt. Now, one thing that I'm also noticing right off the jump is that we don't really have that many offensive linemen to work with. I mean, only one left tackle, one left guard, and DJ Ray, who at least is solid. Do have a few centers to work with, but 2 of them are going to need time to develop. We do have more, tackles over on the right-hand side. So I'm going to move Jasper Dunlap over to left tackle, and then for right guard, I think what I'm also going to go ahead and do, I'm going to move Sean Robertson out over to left guard. He'll work behind DJ Ray, and then that way, we have at least like a little bit more depth on that left-hand side. Jasper Dunlap could very well win the starting job as a true freshman, but you're going to definitely have to prioritize getting some quality offensive linemen because we don't really have a great offensive line to work with. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, one thing that I will do is I'm still going to run the 3-4. That's what my defensive coordinator is going to continue to run. So what I'm going to do, I only have 2 linemen over on the left-hand side. I'm going to go ahead and move Michael Schultz over to left end. I don't see him much of a chance playing on the right hand side. Has a better chance to get some playing time later in his career, especially if Marvin Jackson ends up getting hurt at any point. Another move that I'm going to go ahead and make as well is I'm going to go ahead and actually move George Love. I'm going to move him over to left outside linebacker. That way, we have at least 3 outside linebackers on the left hand side. Todd Wone will still be the starter, but then Brad Jones and George Love, they can compete for that backup job during spring and fall camp of this upcoming season. As for corner, Johnny Weber, he was somebody that we were going after aggressively. He ends up being a 68 overall, so a solid player. Gonna need a little bit of time to develop. I want to redshirt him if we can, but they might, both him and Brian Haynes might see the field. At free safety, gonna need some more quality safeties over next season, since Will Jones II is gonna graduate, and then Jordan Smith is not too far behind as well. Because I don't think John Paul Young and Chris Porter are necessarily going to do it. Roosevelt Mcdonald, he's gonna be a solid safety, but we're gonna redshirt him, I think. And then, yeah, I think that's the only remaining changes that I want to make in terms of position changes, and really the only thing left to do now, let's see how we do in terms of training results. All right, man, so here we are at our training results, and we do have some NFL prospects, I think, on this roster, man. Let's talk about Brian Battle for a second, man. He goes +7 in his senior year, going hard in the paint, man. He's up to a 94 overall. He's probably going to be our best offensive weapon. But watch out for Andrew Stokes. He's a 99. He could be an NFL prospect, maybe a day 3 pick, to say the least. Timmy McClain, he's only a junior. He's already up to a 90, so I'm really excited about that. And then Will Jones also gets to that 90 overall as well. So potentially 4 NFL prospects on this team for this upcoming season. Cartavius Marsh is going to settle as our backup quarterback this upcoming season. They both got similar speed, but something that really sticks out is Timmy Mccoy. He's got a cannon, man. 91 throw power. I'm excited for that. And he's got good speed as well. I think we're going to have fun with Timmy Mccoy this upcoming season. Although he's never played before, surprisingly. So, actually had one attempt. So, we'll see. This is his first time, actually getting some playing time. We'll see how that goes. We'll have Ben Archie as a backup as well. Kenneth Simmons, he will be our third-string tailback of this upcoming season. Fullback, we'll have Chuck Silva and Kobe Davis. Chuck Silva is only a 72, so I don't know how much he'll see. Over at wide receiver, we got Yusef Terry. He's our #1 guy, but we got a few solid options as well. Jimmy Horn Jr., Sincere Brown, and then Holden Williams, but they're all seniors. Spencer Tate is he's going to be our best receiver that's not a senior, so we're going to need to find some quality wide receivers because after this season, our weapons are going to be lacking. Over at tight end, we got senior Gunnar Greenwald. He's going to be a good target as well. John Medley, though, is only a 64. He could be our starter. So, again, one thing that I'm noticing, got a ton of seniors on this team. So, gonna have to replace a lot of those guys, after this season. Recruiting gonna be really important for us going forward. DJ Ray should be good at left guard. Same thing with Markeith Kelly. Jason Anderson's going to be looking pretty solid as well. Tackles is a concern, though. Chris Thomas is only a 73 even after training. And then Kevin Gordon's a 70. So definitely still need to iron out tackles. I think that needs to be a priority in the recruiting. Getting a really good starter. Because these tackles ain't it. Now, over on the defensive side of the ball, we'll have Marvin Jackson as a 77, and then Jamari Stewart will be an 84, but again, not too much depth behind them. At defensive tackle, it looks like Joe McCormick will start off as our starting defensive tackle. We do have plenty of depth here, so I'm not really worried about finding a defensive tackle this upcoming season, unless, of course, they're really interested and they're a really good player. Talent is talent at the end of the day, of course. And then looking at our linebacking position, Todd Wallen should be starting. And then we'll have both Grady Nugent and Jerome Gant as our two starting middle linebackers in that 3-4 defense. Both got good speed, so I do like that. And then Brandon Adams is going to be our starting player over at right outside linebacker. But watch out for Stephen Morrell. Dude has 90 speed as a linebacker, so if he can get on the field, he's going to be an absolute missile. So that'll be really interesting to watch. Corner, we got two solid corners in Jalen Stokes and AJ Hamilton. And then rounding out the secondary, we got Will Jones II, NFL prospect. I already talked about him. And then Christopher Townsell is going to be in the back as well, 85 overall. So a good secondary overall that we get to work with. Kicker will be an issue, though. Kicker's not very talented. He is a +6, but he only has 69 kick power. Now, that is nice for the memes, but not so nice if we want to get in the field goal range. It's probably going to be touchdown or bust for the most part. Now, the most difficult thing for me to do in the offseason is making cuts, and unfortunately, we do have to cut 5 separate guys. Now, I'm looking at a roster right now. We got a few too many 50 overall guys, so I'm going to cut straight from the bottom. Kobe Davis, you're gone like a girl in a country song. John Paul Young, you're only a junior. You're never going to see the field, if I'm going to be honest with you, so you're going to have to go as well. Chris Porter, 54, he's also going to go, even though we will end up losing that pipeline to Alabama. That is a good state to recruit from, so that'll hurt us a little bit, but just straight up not good, right? So he's going to have to go. Isaac Slaughter, he's a 54. I don't want him to see the field. And then we're down to one last cut, and I think Andy Britton is going to end up getting it. 6'4", 249, but only a 56 overall, and he's already a sophomore redshirt, so he's not going to be somebody that's going to grow all that much, and he only has 60. Doesn't really do anything all that well, to be honest with you. Is a good block shedder, but that's about it. He's going to get the final cut. So That's going to be our final 70 guys. That does end up meaning that the custom prospect Mitch Steele does end up making the team. He will serve as the third string quarterback and is the only player as well from North Carolina. So that'll be interesting to see. Could very well start in the next 2 seasons. So maybe look at him as a starter for USF as a sophomore redshirt if everything goes according to plan. Now, with that being said, if you did make it this far in the video, then this is the part where I get to tell you guys how you guys can get a little bit more involved in this series in a personal way. Now, down in the comment section, I will have a pinned comment, and in that pinned comment, there's going to be a template for you guys to follow if you want to have your custom prospect. Now, that being said, your custom prospect is going to start out as a high school senior. He's going to go through the recruiting process, and wherever he ends up, whether he ends up with me or at another school, we're going to try our best to follow their career as much as humanly possible. So that being said, we'll go ahead and check that out. So if you're interested in that, let me know down in the comment section with your template, and I'll make sure you get your guy in there. Now, that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the players that we are going to redshirt this upcoming season, since we will have quite a few on both sides of the ball. Mitch Steele, I'm not going to redshirt because we might need him as an emergency quarterback. He might still end up getting redshirt anyways, so we'll end up seeing what happens there. But we'll have Timmy Mccoy around. We'll see if he declares or not. But that being said, we should be fine at quarterback. Halfback, I'm actually going to redshirt quite a few people. Since we have 6 running backs, I'm going to redshirt Kenneth Simmons, Sheldon Rodriguez, and Jason Wilson. So going to be seeing a good dose of Brian Battle and a little bit of Ben Archie as well to go with it. Both really fast guys, by the way. And then in an emergency situation, Michael Richardson is going to show up as well. Not because he's good, but because I want to save these guys for the future. Over at tight end, another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to redshirt Patrick Starks. He was going to be just our third string tight end anyways, more of a blocking guy to say the least. So that's that. Gunnar Greenwald and Scott Morris should have things taken care of. Then over on the defensive side of the football, I am going to redshirt Ryan Bennett. That's because I'm a big believer in what Chad Butler brings to the table, as well as Shane Baker, a little bit more athleticism. He's a strong guy, and that's why his overall is highly regarded. But that being said, Joe McCormick's going to be starting for us anyways, so just a nice opportunity to go ahead, give him some extra eligibility so that he can be an even better player moving forward. Meanwhile, at the right outside linebacker, Rich Fields is going to be buried down on the depth chart, so we're going to redshirt him this season. Still going to have some work to do because a lot of the guys ahead of him are sophomores and juniors, so, he might not see the field for a little bit, but he does have some promise with that 87 speed for a linebacker. And then the final redshirt that I do want to go ahead and make right now is Roosevelt Mcdonald. He's our 4-star athlete that we did convert over to the strong safety position. And again, going to be buried behind Christopher Townsell and Eric Houston. So I'm going to go ahead and redshirt Roosevelt Mcdonald. And that's going to wrap up our red shirts for this upcoming season. And of course, the last thing that I wanted to go ahead and check out before I signed off here is our schedule for this upcoming season. Our first year as a head coach at the Division I level, man. I'm so excited about the opportunity. So what we got going on, we're going to be playing, and I did change some things a little bit because I don't like having a bye week 1. So going to be starting off week 1 going on the road against Indiana. They were pretty rough last year, but they could give us a little bit of a test to say the least. We'll have to see how that ends up turning out. Then we'll have a bye week 2, and then week 3 we'll have another road game against San Jose State, another road game against UAB, bye week before we start conference play, and then we have, yes, another road game against Tulane. We actually don't have our first home game until Missouri, and that's in week 7. So not a lot of home games for us this year. We do have another home game against Tulsa. road against East Carolina. Then 3 of our last 5 games are going to be home games. We're going to be home for Memphis and Navy as well. Then to wrap up the season, we'll have SMU on the road, Temple at home, and then week 15 will be a road game against the Cincinnati Bearcats. So strength schedule is only a C-, so I think we can do some good things, especially since we do have a star at both running back and halfback. I think we can get to a 10-win season. We're taking over a pretty good program. We just have to take advantage, of the schedule that is laying in front of us, because we don't really face a tough opponent, really. Nobody's ranked, so we just got to take advantage of that, even though it might not get us a lot of national attention because of it. So guys, that is actually going to go ahead and wrap up today's episode. I hope you guys are excited for season number 4. But that being said, if you are, make sure you go ahead, smash that like button, hit subscribe if you have to be brand new as well. This is John J Gaming on the mic, signing off. I'm hoping you're all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.